Okay girls, I'm almost ready to throw my iPad at the wall. This is about the 10th time I've done this particular video analysis, and every time the software that I'm using stuffs up. So I finally decided to use a different software, so bear with me, it could be a little bit fidgety. Alright, but hopefully it will work this time. And I've done this 10 million times, so hopefully I know what I'm talking about for this particular video. So, this video we're looking at here is long corners and a free hit inside the 23-yard line. Now, what I want us to think about in this video is the different options we should be making available for ourselves, but instead we're not really making options available for the ball carrier, which makes it very, very hard for them. Now, what happened when we were facing this St. Cuss team is most times, I'd say maybe 3/4 of the time, we weren't taking the ball 5 metres before the ball was going into the circle, and we were losing it every single time. Now, if I think back to the St. Mary's game, for example, in the final, we didn't get a lot of time up in that 23-yard line, alright, or in our quarter, or our attacking part. And it's really, really important that we do know the rules and we are familiar with the rules, because when we do get down there against these strong teams, I'm thinking for interzones and for aims, yeah, we can't be throwing the ball away to the other team because we haven't taken the ball 5 metres, and that's really, really silly stuff, alright? The midfield will work hard to get the ball up to us, alright, and we can't just be giving the ball back to the other team because we haven't taken the ball 5 metres. So just to clarify that with you girls, when the ball is taken for a long corner or a free hit anywhere in this area here, the ball must travel 5 metres before we can take the ball into the circle. Now, both these clips that I use here are not taken 5 metres and we've thrown the ball away. However, I am going to use them because I want us to look at a couple of different options that we can make available for these sorts of plays. Alright, so the first one we're going to look at is a long corner from Anna, who's playing the ball from over here. So what we'll do, girls, is we'll watch it, and then we'll go back and analyse it like we do all the time. Alright, so let's watch this one, and then we'll go back. Okay, so just rewinding back, or no, it's forward. Okay, so the thing I want to make very clear to start off with, and something that is always available, and if we can execute it properly, it will always work, and we've done it at training many times, is that pass from the wing making a lead from the sideline into the baseline. Now, I can't draw it as far on my screen because the GoPro didn't go that far, but basically what we have here is Katie Ryan, who's playing right wing, is actually on the sideline, alright? Now, as Anna starts to dribble forward, Katie makes that lead from the sideline into that baseline, alright, and then receives the ball in the gap. Now, nobody should be marking Katie Ryan if she's right on that wing in that corner, because if a defender decides to mark them, then they've created an opportunity in this field here, but also the defence won't actually mind if somebody takes the ball on the sideline. Now, obviously, we're not going to take the ball right on that sideline. We're going to lead in and receive it on the baseline, yeah? But the mentality going through the defenders is, alright, we don't care if the ball goes to that wing on the sideline there because we've taken them into the corner away from the goal. Alright, that'll be their thinking. Alright, so that wing should always be free to make that lead infield. And that's always an option I want to keep available if we're taking the ball from anywhere in this area here. Okay, so basically what happens here, and we'll just look at this play to start with, is as Anna goes forward, this defender here is in two minds, and that's because Katie is on that wing there. Alright, so this defender's in two minds of what to do. She's marking Anna here, but she's also thinking about Katie Ryan, which she shouldn't really be doing. However, as we go forward, we can see the St. Cuss player here is in two minds. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. Now, this was perfect. Look at this gap we've created here, and all that needed to happen was a pass through there to Katie, who could then run baseline and then up to Lottie. Alright? However, Anna passes far too early, and the ball hasn't travelled 5 metres before it goes in the circle. But however, look at the space she has here to dribble. Alright? So, she could have dribbled a little bit further and then made the pass in field, and the ball would have travelled 5 metres. Now, what I want to quickly talk about is the different options we have available if that ball hasn't travelled 5 metres first. What I want to talk about is if this point play here, so let's just rewind a little bit further. No, that's going forward again. if this player here was a little bit further up and at the 5 metre mark. Instead she's not, so it's given Anna a little bit more freedom to run. If that player was a little bit further forward, what the player with the ball could do is run out this direction first and draw this player out here and then make the pass infield. So we're doing like a draw and pass. Alright, so what that will do is as this player is running outfield, it'll shift this person's body weight over there. Then as the pass is being made infield, this St. Cuss player won't be able to drag her stick over this way because she's running that way. So the momentum shift is too big to make the inset, which means the pass will go through even if Anna's close to the player. Alright, another option is if the player, we could dribble straight at the player and then just do a sort of like a little jink flick over the player's stick. Not a massive one, just sort of shin height, over the player's stick, and then the ball will travel towards the player on the wing. And that's a lot harder to intercept. So that's another option if we have to try and get closer to our defender before the ball goes 5 metres. To make that ball go 5 metres. However, this whole idea of drawing the player out here and then making the pass is probably a better option. Okay, so that's just something I want to think about, and an option that I always want to make available is that wing starting on the sideline, making the run infield. All the space here should always be free. So as long as the ball can travel 5 metres, we should be able to get that pass down there. Okay, another thing that I want to think about with these long corners is the player taking the ball. Ideally, girls, I don't want the inner taking the ball from now on. Alright, because what I want us to do is create a short pass option somewhere in this area here. Alright, so we can make a short pass if it's available. Now the good thing about a short pass, girls, is that if I was standing here, obviously I'll be marked, so we'd have to lead in from a different direction to receive the ball. Alright, but getting to that mark over here, what Anna could do is pass me the ball. I could then pass the ball straight back to Anna, and then Anna could smack the ball into the circle as another option. Alright, so what I could do, and we'll use Lottie as an example because this is something Lottie could have done, and then Georgia could have swung onto that dot there. As Lottie could have led to the top of the circle there, Anna could have then passed through the ball. Then Lottie had 2 options. She could either peel out, all right, and then take a shot herself, or when she received the ball, she could quickly pass the ball back to Anna, and then Anna could pass the ball into the circle. So it's this idea, girls, getting the half to take the ball. It's giving the freedom for the inner to move somewhere in around the ball. Alright, obviously not starting there, maybe starting out here and then leading in. A short pass can come to you. Then you can make a short pass back to the player who passed you the ball. The ball has then travelled 5 metres and then the ball can be smacked in. Alright, so that's just a couple of things to think about as options. Now as a last option, girls, and you'll see a lot of international players doing this, but their passes are a lot faster, so they can get the ball across the field a lot faster than we can. But if we're really stuck for options, girls, we can always pass back to our centre half, alright, and then the centre half can shift it over to the other side of the field as a last resort, alright. Now the good thing about that, girls, is what happens is as we pass the ball back, it'll shift these players here towards the ball that way, alright, which is giving us a little bit more depth to play with, and it spreads the defence out a little bit more. At the moment, if we keep the ball in this area here, all the defence stays around here, and we're not creating the gaps that we could possibly be creating. So it's one good thing about passing backwards is we give ourselves more depth in that area, and it will spread the defence out a little bit more. However, we want to try and stay upfield as much as possible, so only really use that as a last resort at this stage or with your skill abilities at the moment. Alright, I guess the very last thing, girls, as a blatant thing, is that Anna probably could have dribbled this ball herself into this area. There was no one in the area. She could have made a dribble herself, and then she could have made a pass to Lottie once the ball had been travelled 5 metres. But the real things that I want you to get out of this one, girls, is making sure we've got that player on the wing and they're leading into the baseline. If this player wants to make that play happen, the player with the ball, we can either draw the player out here and then make the pass across, or we can do a little jink flick over their stick and towards that baseline. Oh, what did I do there? The other option we have, girls, the other option we have is obviously that short pass. So if Anna doesn't take it and leaves it for the half, we're creating a short pass somewhere around here. We can lead to that position. We don't want to start there. I want to make that very clear because you will be marked. So maybe starting here, making that lead into that position there. Short pass can be made. Short pass can be made back, and then the ball can be hit in. Alright? Or the other option there with that idea is you can make your lead into there. You can trap, and then you can use the deflection of the ball to help you peel around and into the circle for the shot. Alright, so now let's move on to the next one, I think. Okay, girls, so this one here, we've got Georgia taking the ball here. All right, and what I want to emphasize out of this one, and this isn't a long corner, this is a free hit, is the lead that Alice makes. So Alice is obviously the left wing here, and she's standing over here. All right, so let's watch this and see what happens. Okay, girls, so let's rewind. I'm going forward again. Let's keep going a little bit more. Alright, so we have obviously got Georgia taking the ball, and again, this is a good example of the ball not travelling 5 metres, and we're throwing the ball away to the other team. What I first want to go over, girls, is this run Alice makes, which is very good, but there's one thing that she doesn't do so well in it, which makes it a poor execution. Now, what we've done here is what we've called a cut, all right? And she's cut very, very well. She's dragged her player into the circle, and then she's realised she has this space here, which she then leads out into, okay? But as I play it, we can see that Alice isn't really running fast enough, all right? So by the time she gets there, that St. Cuss player is pretty much on her, okay? So if we rewind a little bit more, oh, I keep going. If we rewind a little bit more, if Alice had made that run out really, really fast and as hard as she could, then Georgia could easily make a pass to her, and then Alice could bring the ball into the circle. But instead, Alice, your run isn't fast enough, and I really need to make this really important, girls, is that when we are in the attacking part, so in this area here, you are going to be marked on, all right? So when we want the ball, we have to be running fast, and we have to be urgent for the ball, all right, to get us into free space. If we're not running fast enough, girls, then we're going to get tackled, all right? So it's really, really important that we are running very, very, very hard into the space that we have available. All right? So now that we've looked at that, girls, what I want us to go over now is the different options that we have available for Georgia. All right? Obviously, we have this space out here. Now, Georgia starts to run out to the space. She could have run out further into the space and then made the pass infield. All right? But I do want to make it very clear that I wouldn't want you to go all the way out into the corner, because then again we're leading into that dead space and we're making it harder for us to get that ball back into the circle. But what you could have done is led out a little bit further into the space that you had available and then made the hit infield. Alright? The other option you had, obviously, is if we go a little bit further forward. You did have a pass to Alice, possibly. Yep, and especially if she was running really, really hard, we could have easily made that pass available. Alright? What I also want to make very clear, another couple of options that you had available, and it's, girls, going over these is just to get you starting to think a little bit more about the options you have available, alright, when we've got the ball. You had another quick couple of options, 1 and 2 behind the ball, and I guess especially the centre half here is this idea that we can make the quick 1-2 pass, yeah, and then we could hit the ball into the circle. Alright? Now, again, girls, as I explained in the last one, if we pass backwards to one of these players who actually aren't that far away from us, it'll cause 1, 2, and 3 to move up, and we're creating more depth for us to play in, and we're creating more space. Alright? At the moment, you make a small drag this way, then a small drag that way, and we haven't moved all 5 of these defenders anywhere. Alright? And you're making it very hard to get the ball through and into that circle. So it's this idea that we can make a quick pass here, drag a couple of these St. Cuss players out of the play, alright, and then the short pass could be made back to you, and then you could have hit the ball into the circle, which again would have meant that ball would have travelled 5 metres. The last thing I want to think about here, girls, is these 2 players here. And it's really important that the players on your side, so if you're if we're a right half, right wing and right inner, that we're all playing together, we're all playing as a unit. Okay? So as I think that's Abby actually playing the right inner at the moment. You should have realised, Abby, that I have a player right behind me. I'm wasting my position by standing here. There's no point having 2 players standing right beside each other. So you could have gone and helped her out and created another short pass. I mean, I look at the space in here you could have used, so you could have run into that space there. But also, what I want to make clear, and it's about working together as your positions, Katie Ryan, you should have been up at your post. Yeah? As a golden rule, girls, if I split the field in half, if the ball's on the the other side, so at the moment the ball's on this side of the field, Katie, you should have been up on your post. And same thing goes. If the ball's on this side, yeah, Alice, you would be up at your post. Alright, so at the moment, it's Alice's job to make that supporting role as a wing to support the player on your half of the field. So what we've done here. And at Kate, it's your job to be on that post. So if the ball does come through and towards the goalkeeper, you're there for the deflection. Alright, and vice versa happens on the other side of the field. So I guess if Katie had been a little bit further up, then Abby, that would have been your job to be up at the top of the circle. And it's this domino effect, girls. If one player's not playing to their position on the field, then it will cause other players not to play in their positions because you're in their position. Alright? So I would say that if Katie had been up in her position, it would have caused Abby to be up in this space here, and it might have created a pass as Georgia dragged through here to pass through. And if we go a little bit further forward here, yeah, we could have made a pass through there, alright, and to where Abby should have been. Alright, so that's just another couple of things to think about here, girls. But I do want to make that very clear about Alice's lead. So when we're in this position here, instead of being out here, it is a good idea to start in the circle here, drag your player in, and then run out into the space here available for that pass to come through. Okay? I also want to make it very clear that if you are struggling for options, do look to pass backwards. You've got halves that are available. Alright? But it's really, really important that we are taking this ball 5 metres before it goes into the circle. I do not want to be losing the ball because of silly mistakes not taking the ball 5 metres. If you think, oh, have I taken it 5 metres, maybe it's a little bit, then what I would think about doing is passing, all right, before it goes in the circle. We just can't be throwing the ball away to the other team because of these silly mistakes. And at the end of the day, girls, it is possession. So if we did pass back to one of these players, there's nothing wrong with that because we've still got the ball and we can create opportunities, all right? And the more we move the ball around, the more we move the players around, and the more the gaps become free. Alright, so that's basically all I wanted to talk about for those 2 videos there, girls. Hopefully you can start thinking about the different options that we have available for long corners and free hits inside that 23-yard line. And that is something that we are really going to work on at trainings, especially leading up to AIMS. Alright, and all these things we will be working on leading up to AIMS and getting you thinking about the different options that we want to make available for us. Alright, that's all for this, girls, and I'll see you in the next video.